In GA4, there are two main areas to do reporting. We've got reports in the reports workspace, and we've got explorations in the explore workspace. And there are a number of considerations to be aware of between the two platforms, but I'll link off to some documentation to read through kind of the official list of all the differences that Google provides. But I'm going to be talking about two of those in this video. The first one is going to be sampling, and the second one is going to be the data retention period and what that means and how that affects the data in both workspaces. So starting with sampling. Sampling is the process where Google estimates some data if you're asking it to report over a lot of data. So what that means is that if you are asking Google Analytics 4 to run an exploration of more than 10 million events in the free version or more than 1 billion events in the paid version GA360, then Google might not give you exact data. The way that we can tell that in the explorations is using the indicator in the top right hand corner of the screen. If there is no sampling and you're looking at exact data, that should be a green tick. However, if you are getting sampled data, that will turn either to an amber or a red symbol depending on how much sampling is occurring. So for example here, I'm running an exploration and I've got no sampling. So this is showing me exact real data, and I can have a look in the toggle in the top right hand corner and I can see that this is unsampled data. However, if I extend this date range over a period of time, that means that the more than 10 million events will be incorporated into this report, then you can see that that toggle changes. That toggle is now changed to an amber symbol, and we can see how much of the underlying data used here is actual data and how much then is estimated. Now the model it uses to estimate data is really good. It's pretty accurate, but if you need exact data, then obviously we won't be able to use this. But how much sampling you're happy with will depend on the type of report and what business you are and what you need to get out of it. Sampling does not exist in the reports workspace, it's important to know, no matter how much data you're sending into Google Analytics 4. So there's a big difference between the reports workspace and the exploration workspace. This is just one of those differences. The second thing I want to address in this video is data retention. Now, data retention is a period of time that Google keeps or retains the data you collect. Outside of that data retention period, Google deletes the raw data. Now, this is not new for Google Analytics to do this. Google Analytics has never kept all of your data for all of time. What this means is that within the data retention period, Google's going to keep all of your raw data, but outside of that window, it's going to start deleting that historical data. Now, if you want to keep all of your historical raw data, you can do so. If you connect your Google Analytics 4 property to BigQuery, you can then save those daily exports in your own instance of the Google Cloud Platform, and you get to keep your data for as long as you've had that set up. Now, Google doesn't keep all of the raw data for us forever. And so if we want to use the explorations, we have to be aware of the data retention period. The way that we can do that is we can go into the admin section of GA4, we go under data settings, and then there's a data retention area. So within there, we can see that by default, there are two data retention windows we can use. The default is actually 2 months on a free version of GA4. There are different options for the enterprise level of GA360. And so what this is telling me is that my data is only retained in this example for 14 months. The toggle underneath that says reset user data on new activity changes that definition from just the last 14 months to the last 14 months of each user data. So the fact that that is enabled means that when a user has not engaged with our website or app for 14 months, then we delete that user's historical data. If I turn that toggle off, it just means collectively data older than 14 months will be deleted. Now, before we go into any more detail around that, I just want to explain the differences between the reports and the Explore workspaces here. This only affects the Explore workspace. In Google Analytics 4, if we go into the reports workspace, we can see even for this property, I've been tracking data into this property for years. And if I change the date range here on any report in the reports workspace, you can see that we have data. We have data going as far back as when we started implementing the tracking. Now, this is going back beyond 14 months. This is going back beyond the data retention window. And that's because data in the reports workspace will never be deleted. It's never going to be sampled and it will never be deleted. When we're using the Explore workspace and we're building explorations, that's where we're subject to the data retention period. All of the reports in the Explore workspace are pulling from that raw data, which is eventually deleted. And the way that we can see that in explorations is if we go into an exploration and try to take that date range back beyond the data retention period, we can see that it's grayed out. So those dates beyond, in this case, 14 months, it might be 2 months for you if you set it up as 2 months, have been grayed out because there is no data retained before then. So we are beholden to the data retention period, but also to sampling when it comes to building explorations. Two things to consider when using the Explore workspace, both of which don't apply to the Reports workspace. You can work around either one of these. So for sampling, you can reduce that date range down and get it underneath that threshold of either 10 million events for the free version or 1 billion events for the 360 version. And when it comes to the data retention, you can change the data retention period within the GA4 admin screen. Just note that if you're changing it from 2 months to 14 months, it doesn't undelete the last year's worth of data. So change it to 14 months and then you have to wait 14 months to have 14 months of data. Anyway, they're the two main considerations when using the explorations. When building explorations in the Explorer workspace, just think about the sampling, check that toggle in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and have a think about the data retention period and go into the admin screen to go check and see what that is, and just make sure we're working within that period of time. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. I'll link off to all the documentation in the description of this video. I'll see you in the next one.